The left rear tire of the white and gold car began to delaminate. Strips of rubber flailed against the track.
That tire is going to explode. He is running at full speed right in front of me.
His thumb moved on its own, pressing the radio button before he could think.
Kenji, your left rear is going. I am sorry.
Then he slammed the throttle. His car lunged past his mentor with brutal determination.
I just wanted you to keep racing. That is all I ever wanted.
Sparks exploded from the exposed rim. Chunks of rubber flew into the air. The two cars split apart. A warning offered. A trust shattered. The checkered flag waved ahead. But the race had already been decided in a different way. And then the broadcast cut to black. 1 week before the shocking radio call that would stun the world, Kenji stepped onto a stage and ended an era.
This will be my last race. After Suzuka, I will retire from Formula One.
I am standing in the back. He never told me he would announce it like this.
Since he was 12 years old, Kenji had been more than a mentor. He had paid for his karting, his school, his life, and every time the boy lost, Kenji was there to tell him it was not the end.
Now it really is the end. In 1 week, you will race against me for the last time.
Race against him. Beat him. End his career with my own hands.
You have been like a son to me. Do not apologize for wanting to win.
But Kazuki knew the cruel arithmetic of that victory. His mentor's legacy would end at his hands.
If I win, I lose him. If I lose, I fail him. Either way, something breaks.
But before he was a driver, Kazuki was a boy who had lost everything.
You will not be alone any longer. From today, I will make sure of that.
He paid for the kart, the simulator, the tutors. He turned an orphan into a contender.
I want to become like him. I want to race at his side.
He lost again and again. Kenji was always there to wipe the tears and tell him to try once more.
Tears do not make you weak. They prove you care. Now, dry your eyes and get back in.
Now that same boy stood in the garage holding a faded photograph of the man who had saved him.
He gave me a future, and I am about to repay him by ending his.
He set the photo down with trembling fingers. The room felt colder than it should have.
I have to win, but I don't want him to stop.
On qualifying day, the Suzuka air itself seemed to press against Kazuki's chest as he began his final flying lap.
I left nothing on the table. The car was perfect through every corner.
Then Kenji took the track. His lines were impossibly smooth. His breathing never changed. The timing screen flashed a gap of 0.056 seconds. Kenji had stolen pole by a whisper.
I was close, closer than I have ever been. Tomorrow, that gap closes forever.
Later, in Parc Fermé, they stood 10 meters apart, helmets under arms, the weight of 2 generations between them.
You made me work today. Good.
He knows. He knows I am no longer just his student.
Kenji allowed himself a faint, proud smile that only Kazuki could read. The grid was set. Kenji P1, Kazuki P2. The final race of an era would start the next day. The 5 red lights vanished, and the final race of Kenji's life exploded into motion. Kenji covered the inside with surgical precision. There was no gap, no hesitation, no gift.
He is starting his last race exactly how he has always driven, without mercy.
The two of them pulled away from the field, lapping a half-second faster than everyone else, locked in a private war.
I can feel him in my chest. Every shift, every lift, he answers before I move.
On the pit wall, his engineer's voice cut through the cockpit. The order came with a sharp edge.
Acknowledged. They want me to wait, but every lap he stays ahead is a lap I lose the chance to honor him properly.
At the first pit window, the order remained frozen. Kenji, then Kazuki. No change, no weakness. Dark clouds swallowed the sun above the circuit. A cold, heavy rain began to fall without warning. Kenji's car cut through the rain with unnatural calm. His lines remained perfect, as if the water did not exist.
Rain has always been my element. I learned to dance on wet asphalt when I was still a child.
Kazuki attacked around the outside of 130R. Spray blinded him, but trust in his hands pushed the car past Kenji's.
For the first time in this race, I am leading. and I am terrified.
But Kenji did not stay behind. One lap later, on the same corner, he returned the favor, sliding back into P1 with cold precision. The rain intensified. Tires screamed for grip. The gap between them narrowed to nothing. They traded positions again, a second swap. Each pass was a conversation without words.
The boy is not waiting anymore. Good.
After 2 swaps, the order returned to Kenji, but the rain warned of more chaos ahead. The safety car emerged from the pit lane. A crash at Spoon had scattered debris across the track. Both cars dove into the pits for fresh, wet tires. The crews moved in a blur of spray and noise. At the restart, they launched side by side, instantly leaving the pack behind as if the battle was theirs alone.
Now, the cold bit of 130R. I have him.
Kazuki swept around the outside, tires skating on the wet edge, and took the lead for the 3rd time. Kenji did not blink. He cut back at the next corner, retaking the position with a millimeter-perfect move. The grandstands erupted. Fans who had come to say goodbye were now witnessing something beyond farewells.
He is forcing me to become better with every lunge. Is this his final lesson?
On the next lap, Kazuki lunged again, leading for a breathless instant, but Kenji answered instantly, reclaiming P1. 5 lead changes. The rain began to ease, but the pressure between them only thickened. The rain stopped. Sunlight broke through the clouds, and the racing line began to dry. Both dove for the pits, emerging a heartbeat later on intermediate tires. The duel resumed at once.
On the drying line, I can break deeper than him. This is my moment.
Kazuki lunged into turn 1, the car a dart of blue-white fire. He stole the lead for the 6th time, but his rear tire locked under braking, a puff of smoke, the car wiggling.
Number. I pushed too hard.
Kenji, with impossible calm, slid back past him on the exit. The 6th swap of the race. The crowd roared, but the engineer's voice crackled in Kazuki's helmet. Too aggressive, back in rhythm.
He is teaching me even now. I am still the student.
6 lead changes. Kenji still in front. A mistake could be fatal. With 15 laps left, Kazuki found a rhythm that felt like destiny. His hands moved before his mind could doubt.
I can see his lines now. They are still perfect, but perfect can be read by those who were taught by him.
He hounded Kenji through Degner, braking later, forcing a tiny twitch from the veteran's car. An opening the size of a held breath.
That was not a mistake. That was an invitation.
On lap 48, into 130R, Kazuki swung to the outside. The move was clean, committed, absolute. He placed the car where Kenji could not go. The 7th lead change. The crowd climbed to their feet, a roar that shook the cherry blossoms from the trees.
I am leading the final race of his career, and it feels like I am stealing something I cannot return.
Kenji's nose remained in his mirrors, a silver-gold specter refusing to fade. The gap held at 3/10.
10 laps. I must make them count, or he will find a way. He always does.
The 7th swap had not ended the war. It had only sharpened the need to finish what this man had started. At the slow left of Degner, Kazuki glanced into his mirror and saw something wrong with Kenji's car. Strips of rubber flapped from the left rear of the white and gold machine. The tire was shredding at 200 miles an hour.
That is not surface wear. That is a delamination that will blow the tire in seconds. He is still pushing at full throttle.
Sparks began to fly from the exposed rim, glowing red against the darkening track.
The car will tell you when it is hurt. You must listen before it screams.
I hear it. I hear it screaming. And if I stay silent, he will crash.
His right thumb rose from the wheel and hovered over the radio button, trembling in the cockpit light.
If I warn him, he pits and I win, but I will have ended it myself. I will have taken his farewell from him.
The rubber continued to fly. The decision was not waiting for him.
I just wanted you to keep racing, Kenji. That is all I ever wanted.
His thumb pressed the radio button. The channel opened with a soft hiss and the cockpit filled with a silence heavier than the engine roar.
Kenji, your left rear is going. I am sorry.
The words cut across the circuit to the white and gold car, where the man who had raised him was pushing toward 200 miles an hour on a disintegrating tire. Kenji looked into his mirrors. The left rear was a blur of flapping rubber and sparks. He saw what Kazuki had seen.
Understood.
Then, with a calm that could only come from a lifetime of trust, his engineer's voice broke through. Kenji, box this lap. The tire is about to fail.
Negative. I can manage.
Kazuki watched the gap grow in his own mirrors. The silver-gold car, now a wounded animal, refusing to limp.
He stayed out. He believes in my warning, and I am driving into the sunset, burning the bridge behind me.
The tires screamed. The crowd held its breath, and two drivers raced not against each other, but against the weight of a farewell. In his mirrors, the white-gold car trailed smoke like a dying star. Every glance tightened the knot in Kazuki's chest.
Is he staying out because he trusts me, or because he refuses to let me take his last race with a warning?
The broadcast fed the radio call to the world. Commentators argued, a gentleman's warning or a calculated ambush. The waveform of his strained voice, icy, apologetic, flickered on 1,000 screens. People leaned toward their neighbors in confusion.
They will say I used his trust to steal his farewell. Maybe they are right.
Kenji's left rear disintegrated further, yet the car held its line. The legend refused to bow to physics. The gap stretched to 7 seconds. Each meter cost Kazuki a piece of himself.
I just wanted you to keep racing. I did not want to be the reason you stop.
The engineer's voice cut through. He's managing. You did the right thing. But Kazuki heard only the roar of a disintegrating farewell. 6 laps remained. The sky bruised toward sunset. The race had become a vigil. The left rear tire was now a shell of rubber and sparks. With each corner, it groaned like a wounded animal.
I can see the rim glowing red. He is driving on prayer and memory.
On the approach to 130R, a massive chunk of rubber tore free and bounced down the track. Kenji's car snapped sideways. For a heartbeat, the world froze. Then, with a flick of opposite lock, Kenji gathered the car as if it were a colt, settling it back onto the racing line. The engineer's voice broke the silence in Kazuki's helmet. 2 laps to go. He is still P2. He is still pushing.
He is staying out for me. To prove my warning was not a betrayal.
The tire spat another burst of sparks, the carbon fiber exposed. Yet the white-gold car held its speed.
He is teaching me even now that a champion does not surrender.
The sun dipped lower. Cherry blossoms drifted onto the track. The race felt less like a sport and more like a prayer. Kazuki's knuckles whitened on the wheel. The final lap was ahead, and everything teetered on a thread of smoking rubber. The checkered flag waved and Kazuki crossed the line. No fist pump, no scream of triumph. His eyes searched the mirrors, not the stands. He needed to see the white-gold car. Then it came. The wounded machine limped across the stripe, a fountain of sparks erupting from its left rear. Kenji rolled to a stop beyond the line, smoke pouring from the destroyed tire. Yet he raised a hand to acknowledge the crowd. Kazuki unbuckled in a daze. He wanted to run toward that white-gold car to make sure Kenji was whole.
I won. I beat him. So why does it feel like I lost?
The radio crackled with his engineer's voice. P1, Kazu. You did it.
Is Kenji okay?
The engineer's reply was lost in the roar of a crowd that didn't understand. But Kazuki saw Kenji's slow nod from the cockpit.
He made it. I just wanted him to keep racing.
Kazuki remained in his car, helmet still on, head bowed against the steering wheel. The radio had gone silent. Kenji struggled out of his machine, movements slow, the effort of 53 laps carved into his frame. He steadied himself against the halo.
I can't face him. Not yet.
20 feet of sun-warmed asphalt stretched between them, the air thick with unsaid things. Kenji raised his tired eyes and gave a single, almost imperceptible nod. Kazuki sank into a deep bow, closing his eyes, the weight of the warning and the wind pressing his shoulders down. The crowd murmured. They had never seen a winner bow to the man he had just beaten.
He isn't angry. He is proud.
Kenji took a slow step forward, then another, closing the distance. No words, only the crunch of gravel. They turned together toward the podium, side by side, cherry blossoms, spiraling around two men who had just raced each other to the edge of goodbye. The podium rose before them, its 3 steps waiting under a drifting canopy of cherry blossoms.
This trophy is not mine. I took it with a warning, not a victory.
He stared at the silver trophy on the 2nd step, soon to be held by the man who had given him everything.
I can't accept this. Not like this.
The crowd buzzed. The ceremony official called his name, but Kazuki's feet were already moving. He set his bronze trophy on the ground with a soft clink. Then he stepped off the winner's box, toward the P2 step where Kenji was climbing. Kazuki saw Kenji's tired eyes and bowed his head as he walked. He stopped in front of the 2nd place box, the whole world waiting. He bent into a deep bow, throat tight, and the silence was absolute. Kazuki raised his bowed head, eyes wet, and extended the bronze trophy toward Kenji with both trembling hands. Kenji froze. The tired lines on his face deepened. As if he had not expected anything like this, the crowd fell into a vacuum of breath. Not a single whisper moved through the grandstands. Kenji's hand stopped halfway from his side, hanging in the air, trembling slightly.
Kenji-sensei, you taught me everything. I only finished what you started.
Kenji's eyes, filming with moisture, met Kazuki's. The old champion's face softened into something rare.
Kazuki.
The silver trophy on the 2nd step remained untouched as Kenji's hand instead touched the bronze one.
He is going to refuse me, but I have to try.
They stood frozen, the bronze trophy suspended between 2 generations, and the entire circuit waited for the moment of resolution. Kenji shook his head slowly and pressed the bronze trophy back toward Kazuki's chest with a gentle, firm hand. His other hand reached inside his racing suit and pulled out a worn golden embroidered cap. The fabric was faded, the stitching a memory of his first world title, a cap he had kept for decades. Kazuki's breath caught as Kenji raised the cap and settled it onto his messy black hair. It sat there like a crown, slightly too big, but Kazuki did not move to adjust it.
You warned me. You earned it. That is the racer I raised.
He called me a racer. The word he saved for himself. He gave it to me.
Kazuki's shoulders began to shake, but he did not lower his head. He met Kenji's eyes through the blur of tears. The cap, the trophy, the warning. Everything dissolved into a single truth neither man needed to explain. Kazuki turned toward the microphone, face already wet with streaks he had not bothered to wipe away.
I just wanted you to keep racing.
The silence shattered. The grandstands erupted, a wave of applause and sobs rolling through the circuit. Kenji stood beside him, his own eyes shining. He made no move to hide the tears. Kazuki's shoulders heaved. The cap sat crooked on his head, a crown he had not asked for but would never remove. Fans raised their Arigato Kenji banners, faces crumpled with understanding. The radio call was no longer a controversy. Cherry blossoms swirled around the podium like a benediction, painting the air in pink. Kenji placed a firm hand on Kazuki's shoulder and nodded once, the same nod he had given in Park for May.
He never stopped teaching me.
On the podium, 2 generations stood united, and the world finally saw what had always been true. They stepped off the podium together, not as rivals, but as something deeper. The cap still sat a little crooked on Kazuki's head. They passed Kenji's garage. Mechanics paused their work, tools lowered, not a word spoken. The old champion's car was already being covered. A single vintage car, gold livery gleaming, stood in the corner, a relic from a different era, now a ghost watching its heir. Outside, cherry blossoms swirled in the dying light, petals falling onto the track like a final, silent ovation.
You'll be faster than me one day.
Not without you there to teach me. I won't.
Kenji's hand remained on his shoulder, not a weight, but an anchor. The sun dipped below the stands. The circuit fell quiet, grandstands emptying, the last banners folding in the breeze. A legend had told the world who would carry his name. Kazuki touched the cap on his head, feeling the worn embroidery, and kept walking. No one knew what tomorrow would bring, but the road ahead stretched out, empty and waiting. The grandstands were now empty. the track silence save for the whisper of cherry blossoms drifting through the dusk.
He really is gone from the cockpit. That was his last race.
Kazuki walked to the start-finish line, the very place where he had warned and won, now just painted asphalt under fading light.
I'll carry this cap for both of us. His legacy won't gather dust in a museum.
He stopped and looked up at the sky, the sunset bleeding gold and pink into the clouds. A faint smile touched his lips. The circuit stretched out empty, the echoes of the race already fading into memory. Only the blossoms remained.
Thank you, Kenji-sensei.
He turned and began walking toward the paddock exit, alone but not alone, the cap a quiet crown on his head. The wind caught the cherry blossoms, scattering them across the track like a final blessing from the season. And then the sun set on Suzuka, and a new dawn waited beyond the mountains. And when the last light drained from the sky, it did not feel like an end.
He gave me a life when I had nothing. I gave him a warning when it mattered.
The engine note faded from the circuit, replaced by the soft rustle of cherry blossoms settling on the asphalt. In garages across the world, teams would soon prepare for another season. But Suzuka would keep this day forever. Kazuki stopped at the pit exit, turning once to look back at the track that had witnessed his deepest fear and his finest hour.
From now on, I race for both of us. Wherever you are, Kenji-sensei, I will make you proud.
He climbed into his car, the worn cap still on his head, its golden embroidery catching the last light. The engine awoke, a deep purr that felt less like a machine and more like a heart beating again. And as the car rolled onto the main road, leaving Suzuka behind, the sky above him was already filling with stars. One legend had closed its chapter and another had just turned the page.